A journey through framed linearity. Hello there, I'm Archidh Kishore, and the following is a companion video for the portfolio which goes through all the work that I personally have done as a part of Master Stroke Studio under the guidance of Professor Sachin Soni and TA Yukta R. As the title of the video suggests, there is a common link between all the projects discussed in the video. Framed linearity, an ambiguous term, I know, but still, it will be divulged more as we go through the different works, of which the first work was designing an A2 poster visualizing the experiential aspects of an architectural masterwork, in this case by Harirne Vav. The main experiential aspect that stood out to me was the way it deals with horizontal and vertical linearity. As one moves down the stairs, they are bombarded with the sheer horizontal depth through the frames created by the columns, and also the vertical depth through the seemingly never-ending stairs. The poster is an abstraction of that very experience. Elements of a collapsed plan overlaid on section have been used to create a composition where one sees the decreasing horizontal depth as they view along the vertically placed frames. Thus, what results is a composition which explores a linearity in multiple facets. Moving on to Linoprint. An interesting aspect of this work was the abstraction of an already abstract composition, which was our A2 poster, and simplifying it into solid black or white, and picking out the key elements and simplifying the complex lines into something that could be carved onto a A4 lino sheet. The site visit came and went. The ethereal experience of the sheer magnitude of what exists there in Ellora was simply magnificent. Not everything could be studied in the span of a brief site visit spanning 1 or 2 days. So individual caves were allotted to be studied. In this case, cave number 10 or Vishwakarma cave, the only Chaitya in Ellora. After the site visit, an extensive documentative exploration was undertaken where the contextual, physical, ephemeral and organizational attitudes or attributes of the allotted caves were diagrammatically illustrated and their interrelation mapped. After this particular work was carried out, a physical representation of different attitudes observed in the caves was done. A 30 by 30 centimeter cube representing the physical and ephemeral attitudes, such as the way the cave uses light as an instrument to direct one's movement and bring emphasis on the stupa. Then a 30 by 30 by 5 centimeter maze representing the contextual and organizational attitudes, such as the unapparent grid organization hidden within the cathedral-like Chaitya space. The cube represents a certain kind of experience of the Chaitya space through a mechanism where the user views the space through the viewport on the front of the composition and can move the mechanism from the back, which elongates the space and spaces out the columns, further emphasizing the space. Beyond this, the cube is also a study into the way light can be used within the limitations of the nature of the building, only allowing light through only one entry point. The maze. The maze organizational devices observed within the cave, whether it be the hidden grid with modulation depending upon the hierarchy of the space, the ambulatory and aggregator among the spaces, the ephemeral aspect of the narrative of the cave, specifically the narrative of the game, which is heavily based upon the goal of Mahayana sect of Buddhism, which views Buddha as more of a human, something more achievable. Here the progression represents the different levels to becoming Buddha, and at the end of the game, the player becomes the stupa, or essentially Buddha. Moving on to the project. Firstly, the name of the project is Prayana, because of how the nature of the building takes you on a journey through the programs of the building, taking inspiration from the narrative of the game. Through the significance of the act of placing an Indology Institute in Ellora, the building becomes a modern-day embodiment of Ellora, and thus it's analogous. The concept explores a scenario where the current-day experience of Ellora, a journey through a modern road, taking the user through the remnants of the past, which are the caves, a strong ethereal contrast, one which the project represents in a more emphasized form through the stark contrast seen between the programmatic blocks and the path, which is also an exhibitory space. Thus, like the caves, the different spaces also, in some sense, become exhibits. The contrast is multifaceted through material, heavy archaic basalt masonry for the programmatic spaces and futuristic steel and glass for the path. strictly organized in grid to one which flows and slithers as it pleases, ordered in 1.5 meter segmented vaults, which no space where no space is sporadic, to one which is chaotic and a gradient of volumes and widths. The relationship of the path and the blocks are unique according to the program of the space. The relationship is dealt in three ways: one where the path penetrates and becomes one with the space, one where it penetrates but still stays independent, and finally one where it doesn't penetrate and simply attaches itself to the exterior. These are according to the level of stillness a space might require. Further, the way the project deals with its construction also becomes a strong metaphor of Ellora. As the caves are carved out and the spaces which penetrate into the mountain, the building contrasts itself as structures which emerge out of the mountain but still being a part of it. Coming back to the title of the video, Framed Linearity. The path or the journey in the project is something that brings the concept to life. And this path has been executed in the form of staggered frames which slither along the contours, taking inspiration to how horizontal linearity has been executed in the A2 poster. And with that, the video comes to a wrap. Thank you.